monster?
From outer space.
Eddie just wants to massacre him.
The one out there and kill him.
Wipe them out. All of them. To the very last man.
Violence. Brutality.
Trick-or-treaters are all dead. Isn't it beautiful? Take a walk in the cemetery.
Get eaten up by cannibals.
Celebrate Halloween. Love and kisses, Penny baby.
What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.
Hey, Ballbusters, Bates here with your friend and mine, Ray Mungus, and we're adding another one to our collection here on episode 52 of Way of Life Live. What is going on over there in Mungus Land?
Nothing really. Just a whole lot of stress. Like, it was a nice snow day today. I was off of work. And, it should have been a relaxing day, but it was far from it. I'm actually kind of looking forward to going to work tomorrow to balance it out or make it worse, one of the two. How are things on your end, man?
Just keeping busy. Same old shit.
Sounds exhilarating.
Yeah, pretty much. Kind of bummed out that, recording didn't happen this weekend.
Right. Yes, that.
Yeah, that.
But yeah, but you guys had a pretty fun winter barbecue from what I've heard.
Yeah, I am all aboard for future winter barbecues. There are so many pros and very little cons to a winter barbecue. Like, no heat, so you don't sweat, so nobody stinks.
Perfect.
There's no bugs.
Love it.
Your beer always is cold.
God, you want to end the show here and just go grill out a little bit? I'll fire mine up. Come on over.
When the food that you haven't cooked yet, you don't have to put back into a refrigerator because you're technically outside in a refrigerator. It's just there are so many, pros about it. And, so people will be like, well, it's cold out. Oh, you have a big enough fire pit. You got a big enough fire going. It's honestly not that bad. Which is exactly
put on a little bit of extra clothes, maybe a nice warm hat, and you're good to go.
We didn't have a problem with the cold at all. It was very still. It was not windy at all. The only parts of us that occasionally got a little nippy were our toes, but you put those by the fire for like 30 seconds, and they were sweating again, So we were all extremely comfortable, very warm by the fire, and good food, good beer, music going. It was we had a lot of fun. It was a success in my books in terms of our first winter barbecue. So
Yeah, it's something that we've been talking about doing for so many years, and like I was, in the very beginning when I canceled out on going, that's why recording didn't happen this past weekend. But early on when I canceled out, I was just like, no, with the way I'm feeling, there's no way in hell I could care. I could care less about a winter barbecue right now. But as I started feeling a little bit more normalized throughout the day and evening, seeing the photos and everything like that, I was just like, God, I should have just fucking went, regardless of how I was feeling. It seemed like a really fun time, and it looked like everybody was real happy. So I definitely want to get on board for a future one.
Yeah, as long as we can keep getting days like that with no wind, it was around 30 degrees. At the end of the night, it started raining on us a little bit. By that time, we were kind of, we were getting exhausted, and it was time to pack it in anyway. So, but I mean, we were outside for, I don't know, 5 hours, just sitting around the fire.
I kind of wish that we could record out there without all sorts of craziness or worrying about bad sound, because those are the moments, you know what I mean? Like sitting around the fire, over the years, or the fire pit, or a table in the middle of like 4th of July or whatever. Those were, we had some of the best conversations, like in the entire time we've known one another. And that's partially the reason I wanted to get into podcasting to begin with, because some of the crazy shit that we've talked about with one another over the years is just like you can't replicate it. You know what I'm saying? So like it would be really cool to record like outside while we're doing that, but at the same time, I also miss those days without just getting together to record. Just sit out there and bullshit like old buddies, like we all are. So.
Yeah, that's what Tom said. He said, we should be recording this. I'm like, yeah, well, I don't really have any way to do that unless I were to buy like a nice little digital recorder. That would be the only comfortable way to do it. I mean, and those things are pretty small. I could look into one. It's not. I don't think they're overly expensive, and they're so compact, and they're supposed to pick up sound really well. So I don't know. Maybe I'll.
This way, we could kind of like for an MBH episode or every so often, we could just go out and not have to worry about not necessarily a script, but a guide. You know what I'm saying? We don't need to make a show. We just go out there and be ourselves. I think it'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, I'll have to look into one to see if I can find one that'll work with our needs.
Yeah, definitely. So it seems like it's going to be a good time one way or the other. So, count me in for the next one, provided no unexpected sidelines happen.
Yep, yeah, it happens. What are you gonna do? Invest in lab mics. I'm not even sure what those are. I'll have to.
We'll have to look into.
So since we didn't record Sunday,
we do have an episode in the holster. So
yeah, which I actually just. Honestly, once you get me the background image, I can finish the last bit of editing, which is basically just piecing together and throwing in the bumpers and stuff, which doesn't take me long at all.
All right. Yeah, definitely. Speaking of MBH, our good buddy John Mintel is working on a little intro for a future podcast and plenty of other stuff. Him and I have been talking recently about things to make ways to make the episode a little more interesting rather than just a still background, for the entire 2 hours that we bullshit with one another. So, so far I've seen some of the concept art and animation for our little intro, and it's going to be a blast once he has it all pieced together and everything. So we're going to be getting some improvements going forward for MBH. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that should be pretty cool. I actually I have an artist actually doing a redesign on my logo for my YouTube channel. Once I get that done, I'll send it over to your way, and you can build me a nice new layout.
I actually saw your tweet about that today, and I was just like, all right, once you got a logo, I could definitely kind of like spider web out. You know what I'm saying? Like if I got a piece to work with, I could get a vibe off of that and roll with it. So yeah, we're gonna get some upgrades on our channels and things like that. So we're gonna at least be looking good.
I'm gonna try.
Exactly, that's all we can do at this point.
So we're doing a thing on Friday, I think.
We've said that before, like twice. So I think we are going to do it this week. I look at all this work that I have to do as far as like graphics and shit, and I'm just like, a thing on Friday. But at the same time, it's always a fucking blast, and I really need that. The last 2 weeks have been basically hell for me, so I need a few beers to kick back and watch a horror movie and talk over it. Yeah, definitely.
So what is on the docket for this commentary?
Well, we've revealed before that we were going to be watching Tom Savini's version of Night of the Living Dead, the 1990 version, if I recall correctly. We both love it. You love it a little more than I do because I'm more of the original.
Yeah.
Right? I'm very into that. But we both respect the film very greatly. And there's been some recent news about it we've talked about on the show regarding it not being 100% the film that Tom Savini set out to make. And, we're gonna while we rewatch it, like I think that's gonna be interesting sort of perspective to view the film, like knowing that he had compromises and made compromises and still managed to hit a home run with it. So I'm really looking forward to diving into the changes and history of it. And, maybe this is going to be a little less of a comedy commentary and more of a factual one because you and I are pretty much fascinated with the movie. So it's going to be a good one, I think.
Yeah, and it's been a little while since the last time I watched it in its entirety. It definitely is one of my favorite movies. It's my favorite remake by far. So I think it's pretty cool that we're finally going to go ahead and jump into this one and comment. Give our commentary on it.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's going to be great to revisit in general because like I haven't seen it in quite a while. I can't even estimate it. It's been that long. So, it's going to be awesome to revisit, awesome to see all these actors that we've known in many different projects over the years. I mean, Tony Todd's in it, Bill Moseley's in it. It's a stacked cast and really, really well done.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I was actually surprised when you picked this movie.
Yeah, you thought you had me marked, but it was something that I've been wanting to find a way to squeeze into. And I think, I hate to say it this way. I don't want to call it a cool down movie, but after the last commentary, I think it'd be good to have a more mellow, just chill time watching a film that's not necessarily made to be riffed on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, there are just way too many redeeming things about that film to riff on it. So looking forward to that. That will be this Friday, 8 p.m. here. If you'd like to watch the movie with us, just get in contact with me. You can find me on Twitter, and I will give you all the details needed so you can watch the movie along with us. All right. I think that's it for the beginning nonsense. So let's go ahead and jump into some horror news here. Most of you guys know that I am a big fan of Gilbert Gottfried's amazing Colossal podcast, and every couple weeks, maybe every other month or so, Gil loves to bring in someone from either classic horror or just the horror industry in general, and this week, they grabbed somebody I've been waiting for them to interview since I started listening to this podcast, God, like over 3 years ago. And I know it's somebody they had been wanting to get since the very beginning, and they finally did. And it's so far it's been an amazing interview. I still got a little bit more to finish, but they interviewed the 88-year-old Addams Family legend in John Astin. And it's funny, he had such a, not had, he still does. He has such a iconic voice, especially when you watch him in the Addams Family. Like, you hear that voice, and I don't know, it's like you can't think of anybody else who has that voice. And then you hear him today at 88 years old, and fuck, he still got that voice. He still sounds the same. I love that. I love it when actors and actresses like retain their voices, well, as they age. They may not look exactly the same, but when they sound the same, it's just so comforting. It's like you immediately relate and you hear the voice, and it just brings you back to everything you loved about this person.
It's also rare, too. I mean, obviously, with age, your voice changes, and there's a lot of stars that try to keep that iconic voice, but often it comes off like a imitation. Like when you have one of those films that is revisited. Here's a pretty good example. Dumb and Dumber, when they took like 20 years to make a proper sequel to it. It almost felt like Jim Carrey and who is the other guy? Jeff something.
Jeff Daniels. Jeff Daniels,
right? It almost felt like they were imitating the characters. You know what I mean? And in John Astin's case, his voice isn't a character, but it's very, very much tied to pretty much all of his work. You hear it walking down the street. You probably turn your head if you're a fan of his work. And a lot of times it does come off like an imitation, but, I've heard him, and yeah, I'm with you, man. He's still got it.
Yeah, no, he's just one of those people who has one of those voices. I mean, Raul Julia was the same way, and Tim Curry, strangely enough, all three people who have played Gomez Addams at some point in their lives.
Go figure.
Yeah, and they've all had it. I mean, obviously Raul Julia is gone, and Tim Curry is obviously having health issues, but even post-stroke, Tim Curry still has that voice. It's not as booming and commanding as it used to be, but you still hear it. It's like you hear it, and it's like, oh, that's Tim Curry. Like, you can still pinpoint it. But John, at 88 years old, very, very alert. He remembers quite a bit, and you start listening to the interview and you start hearing him talking, and it's like, holy shit, that's Gomez. And as I said, I got a little bit more in the episode to go, but everything I've heard so far, obviously they talk a lot about the Addams Family and stuff, and they talk about his time as Edgar Allan Poe and the play he did, and some of his earlier works, and they dive into a lot. The man has done quite a bit. He's got a lot of acting credits. He's got quite a few director credits. He's got quite a career to cover. And, the Gil and Frank do a very good job of hitting on a lot of the notes. Again, they do focus on the Addams Family. It's what the man is best known for. It's what fans love him for. And he seems so attached to that series and that character. It seems like he still is just overjoyed talking about it and reminiscing about it and talking about, the wonderful cast he got a chance to work with, Carolyn and Ken and Jackie Coogan, all these awesome people he got to work with. So if you're a fan of the Addams Family in any incarnation, this is definitely an episode you guys need to go download over on iTunes and enjoy. Again, this is guy's 88 years old. He's old Hollywood, and that's something that's dying. stories and the old Hollywood legacy. It's dying, and thankfully this show is trying to keep that history alive best it can. Hollywood today is just not the same as it was 60, 50, even 40 years ago. So these guys do a phenomenal job of reminding you what the golden age of television and film were like. Getting these legendary and iconic stars from the past to come on and talk about things you don't hear them talk about very often.
Yeah, it's certainly a lost. I don't want to say art, but the fact that there's only so much information out there about these old timey shows and actors and actresses, and it's almost like a preservation podcast. It's very, very admirable what they were doing, and I gotta say, I would have never ever in my life expected that it would come from Gilbert Gottfried, of all people. Like, growing up, I would have never believed that if you came back in time and said, hey, you're gonna be able to listen to a podcast by that guy with the voice, talking about almost preserving a bunch of Hollywood's history and doing it better than, dare I say, most podcasts, most documentarians and things like that. So, I mean, it's really great what they do. And so much story and so much lore and everything is coming out as a result. And, you got to give the man credit. And I'm definitely tuning in for this one because I was Addams Family over at Munsters kind of guy. So I'm really looking forward to listening to this.
Yeah, that is definitely a discussion and debate for another time. I actually preferred the Munsters, just because of I've just always been a really big admirer of Fred Gwynne and Al Lewis. So they're two great shows. They're very different. Oh
yeah, absolutely.
But I always chose the Munsters over the Addams Family, but it does not mean that I do not love and respect the show, regardless. But everybody has their favorite. Every horror fan that knows the Munsters and knows the Addams Family, each one has a favorite.
Absolutely. So, but today, you go and choose Addams Family because John Astin's on this podcast. You got to go listen to it.
Yes, definitely.
Not now. Keep listening to us and then go listen to it.
Yeah, you guys can download that whenever you want.
Exactly. This is live.
So, next up, I don't know, about a week or two ago, the Chucky television series gets a working title. Shocker here. Its title is Chucky. Who didn't see that one coming? I mean, that's not relatable. And
stop the presses, everybody. We got some huge news.
No, really. It's like, oh, yeah, I didn't see that one coming. You got to go with a title that's going to grab people. So...
Now, it's smart because, I mean, if you see a casual horror fan on the street and then you're like, name your favorite doll horror movie, they're like, Chucky. And there has never been a movie called Chucky. That's not a title. It is now, but it never was.
Yeah, after Child's Play 3, when I believe the rights to the franchise, for the most part, had changed hands in the studio-wise. Kind of like how Friday the 13th, after Part 8, went from Paramount to New Line. The new studio no longer was able to use the Child's Play name. The original studio owned it. Same thing with Friday the 13th. Paramount owned the name Friday the 13th. That's why Jason Goes to Hell wasn't named Friday the 13th Part 9. That's why Jason X wasn't named Friday the 13th Part 10. They couldn't use that name. Same thing with Child's Play. After Child's Play 3, new studio got it, and they couldn't use Child's Play, so that's how Bride of Chucky came about. I don't know. It's just fun fact. I don't know if anybody knew that. I don't even know if anybody cared.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's part of the lore, and all those movies that came after Part 3. is pretty much what set the tone, you know? Like, I mean, I don't think before part 3, like, it was referred to as Chucky. I think those movies really set the stage for, you know, the average horror fan referring to it as Chucky. And at this point, you know, with the remake on the horizon, the unnecessary remake on the horizon, might I add, you know, may as well call it what it's best known for, because I don't think a lot of these moviegoers are going to go and see this movie and see it as a continuation of those Chucky movies that we got on Netflix recently. It's a whole new ball game at this point, and now that the TV show's happening, you know, it's best way to refer to it, you know. And I know they said originally they were going to call it Child's Play, but you know, things change, and I think this is the smartest card to play right now.
Yeah. Again, people know the name. It's only going to help it. So, especially with, you know, the remake on the horizon. I guess we're gonna talk about that at some point.
Before I even go into it, I just wanted to note that with this news of the title, they also, you know, the producer Nick Antakaska kind of dived into like how much continuation are we going to see on this series, and the quote that he left us, it's kind of interesting. He actually said they might pop in eventually, but it's new characters. I don't want to say anything definitive. I want to leave that to Don. But let's just say that there may be opportunities in the story for Jennifer or Fiona to make an appearance. Of course, the plan is for Brad to be the voice. So we got confirmation that Brad Dourif is returning as Chucky. You know, as he's up there with icon status like Robert Englund and Kane Hodder. Like, you can't replace that voice. I'm sorry, you just can't. The interesting thing to me was the fact that they're not going to be moving in the direction that we thought they were after Cult of Chucky. So, lots to think about.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. You know, it's just going to be good just to hear Brad Dourif back. You know what
it's always a pleasure.
what they do with the story obviously is going to be important, but knowing that he's still the driving force in the show is just gonna make it easier.
Yeah, I think we've got a really, really great show on our hands, a lot of potential, and I think the most important thing at this point is for to learn from the mistakes of Ash vs. Evil Dead. Not the show, but the fan reaction to it. A lot of people loved it. Not a lot of people watched it. And people clamor for years and years that they want Brad Dourif to completely continue doing the role. They want Don Mancini back. They want continuations of this series. If the fans don't show up, like, what are they even doing this for? So I think that's the biggest thing that I could stress here. You know, like, leave your money on the table for the one that you support the most. And at this point, they're going up against the remake, an unnecessary one. So make sure you choose who you support wisely, because, you know, that remake could just as easily be confused as a continuation and bury what's to come with this television series. I really hope it doesn't. And I really hope that the television series, you know, steps strong and you know, has a really long life. But, you know, after seeing Ash vs. Evil Dead's ratings go down and down and down, it's like, come on, man. For all the people that bugged Bruce Campbell for so many years for Evil Dead 4, where the fuck were you? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So please show up for Chucky. That's all I'm saying.
Agreed. It's, you know, some people are a little bit, you know, concerned. Oh, it's on Sci-Fi. You know, let's give it a chance. Let's give it a chance. If it's not good, it's not good. You know, I'm not going to sit here and try to defend that, but at this point, you know, just because of everything the franchise is going through, and just give it a chance. We'll judge it and review it, you know, when it finally airs. But at this point, don't jump the gun just because it's on Sci-Fi.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and they've already proven that they could do a really well done show. The producer, Nick Antakaska, Did what's the show? What's the show? I'm losing everything tonight. Channel Zero, and that is a perfect example of a show done very well, and the vision was left intact. They got the man behind Chucky, and the guy that made sure that Sci-Fi played ball with his crazy fucking visions. At this point, it seems like Sci-Fi is going to be signing the checks, and they're going to go out and make the show that they want. So just rest assured, I think we're going to get a good series.
Indeed. So next up, don't know if I'm going to say this right. Danai Gurira?
Gurira. Yeah, I actually had to look it up myself because I was like, how the fuck do you say this name?
Reportedly leaving The Walking Dead next season. That show is really not in my wheelhouse, but it is in Mungus's. So what does this mean for the series?
Bad mojo, my friend. Bad mojo. So after Andrew Lincoln left the series, before the mid-season finale where they took a couple months off, obviously prior to that, they set everything up for him to leave the show, and there was a time jump to go forward. Spoilers. So they basically went forward, I want to say a couple of years, 5 years or something like that. Maybe, give or take. And a whole lot of dynamics change. And I gotta say, having tuned into the show when Andrew Lincoln left, and then after the time jump, things felt fresh. I never thought in my life that I would watch Walking Dead, which is kind of like going slowly down and down. That it would feel refreshed, like almost a new show. It was very familiar, but they were heading in really interesting directions, and I guess jumping ahead and seeing how the characters changed throughout the years rather than slowly seeing it, it was really exciting again. It was great to watch the show. And one of the things that they did in doing so was they kind of pushed Norman Reedus' character, Daryl, a very big popular character, as well as Danai Gurira's character, Michonne. I'm going to start referring to her only as Michonne because it's easier to say. But they pushed her character into the centerpiece, with Lauren Cohen and Andrew Lincoln no longer on the show. They needed somebody to fill those leadership sort of roles. And I was down with it. Michonne's character is fantastic. Her progression throughout the time jump, obviously, it made some really interesting things happen on the show. And I was like, okay, they managed to save it. They managed to do the unthinkable. After a lead leaves a show, generally it's pretty much Quitsville, but they changed it up and they did some really great things. But they never really thought it through, I guess. I guess they didn't do a contract renewal or anything like that. They're too busy worrying about how to keep the fans not pissed off after Andrew Lincoln left, that they didn't realize that they have a fucking very popular movie star on a television show, and she's obviously going to want to be paid when it comes to it. Yeah, at the very least, her manager, her agent is going to want to be paid. And unfortunately, like all these other characters that leave the show, the money is the big thing, and AMC let that slip away, which really, really sucks because they set it up for her to kind of lead the show and really guide it forward, and now they're going to have to backpedal and rethink their entire plan, because I don't know what they're going to be doing. People are going to be getting sick of Daryl, but her character, at this point, who knows what's going to happen,
Yeah, it seems like, they've lost so many of their big name actors and characters on that show, whether, they were killed off or they decided that they were done with the show and were then killed off. I know the character of Michonne. How do you say her name?
Michonne, yeah.
So I know her. Anytime you see Walking Dead promo stuff, it's always her with her katana. So I'm familiar with the character. And again, the show, I don't know too much about the show, so I can't really go into too much detail. But, they're losing all these big names, and I don't know. Wait, what's that? What? Ralph has something to say about the show. Really, Ralph? Really?
It's got a death curse.
Oh yeah. So he
I was like, who the fuck are you talking to?
Ralph. Ralph. Are you sure about that, Ralph? Really?
It's got a death curse.
All right. He really thinks it's got a death curse. I don't know what to tell you. He knows he is one of the most notorious doomsayers, and he's right most of the time. Sorry to hear that, but I don't know. Unless this next season or they're on the next second half of the current season, right?
Yeah, they just started the second half of the season, and it was renewed for season 10. Michonne is basically front and center. She's taking care of Rick's daughter, as well as another child, and just they're gonna do an insane thing. I really hope that they don't kill her off. Maybe they could bring her in down the road, but at the same time, they're doing that same thing with Maggie. They're doing that same thing with Rick, and it seems so cheap. And that's exactly what the whole situation is. It's a basically AMC being overly cheap, not wanting to pony up after the millions and millions of dollars that these actors made for the TV network, and that's unfortunate. And I've been hearing rumors about how cheap AMC actually is since Frank Darabont left the show in season 2, I believe. So it's at this point it's a sinking ship. I'm thinking, I don't know how they could save it twice.
Sinking ship. I should have got the Doomsayer from Friday the 13th Part 8 to weigh in on this.
We really need to start working on those soundboards a little more. And also another small thing about The Walking Dead to continue that. They hit their lowest ratings since season 1, episode 2. Basically, at one point, this show has had 17 million people watching it on a Sunday night, and it hit 4.5 or 4.7 million this past week. So things are not looking good.
Yeah, well, that seems like that's the headline for every new episode that comes out lately.
I know, I'm really sick of seeing the weekly sinking ship news.
Yeah, most of those horror sites and stuff, they'll be like, that's what the headline is. Walking Dead hits, series low ratings-wise. It's like, all right, we get it. It's every fucking episode.
and you would think that they would actually use that energy into something more positive, like promoting it, instead of cheering on its ending. But hey, that's just me.
Yeah, no. Whatever. It is what it is. We'll see. I guess we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll have a little bit of a resurgence. Who knows? Scream Factory and Nika joining forces for a Night of the Creeps release, and Tom Atkins action figure.
Wow.
Where was this thing when I was a kid? Seriously.
I don't know, but when I read this news, I was absolutely elated. Nika's been killing it for so many years on these, first off, the toy line in general, but also the special edition Blu-ray Scream Factory partnership. They made an Angela figure. They made 2 Silent Night, Deadly Night figures. Who would have ever thought you would have those characters in plastic form? You know what I'm saying? And then they just slam dunked it and said, "Guess what? We're making a figure, and it's Tom Atkins, and you are getting one as long as you buy it, of course." But who would have thought we'd ever have a Tom Atkins figure?
Yeah, no. See, this is unfair. I mean, back when I would actually play with these things when I was a kid, I would have loved a Tom Atkins figure. That would have went great. I could have had some amazing crossovers with my Ninja Turtle figures and my Toxic Avenger figure. The possibilities are endless. But no, now I'm 32. I can't play with them, and tell people. But
Hey, like if we had better production quality over here, we would basically be putting that scene from Spaceballs in the screen right now. I told you to knock.
Your helmet is so big.
No, I didn't see you play with your toys again.
But yeah, no, it's cool. Now, I mean, I can't sit here and praise everything that Nika does, but because they do put out some silly things, and I'm like, this is stupid. But at the end of the day, I know that it's gonna sell. This one I think is pretty cool. Tom Atkins he's like one of those. He's that legend in like the horror world for most people, where he's just like I don't know. He's like the Charles Bronson of fucking horror movies, man.
God, man, you need to tell him that next time he's at a convention, because I want that on a T-shirt.
It's like I don't even know, who would win in a fight, Charles Bronson or Tom Atkins? I don't know.
I know Tom Atkins would quip better than Charles Bronson.
It would be a battle for the ages, but that is exactly what Tom Atkins is. Tom Atkins is the Charles Bronson of horror, and god damn, if you're going to be anything, that's what you want to be, in my opinion.
I think you kind of gave me a new goal in life to there's something to strive for. But I want to go back to something you said before. You don't know how much my mind just triggered in a good way when you said adding Tom Atkins to a Ninja Turtle movie. Imagine that.
Or yeah, I the crossovers I could have had, Tom Atkins and all the Spawn figures I had, because that was the biggest collection of action figures I had when I was a kid, was Spawn. It's, man, the possibilities again are endless, and it upsets me now that I don't have those figures anymore, and I can't create the scenes I have in my head. Bastards.
To say the least. But now you could do so in secret, as long as you pick this package deal up. And I gotta say, my jealous of my brother. My brother ordered it day one, and he is not the hugest, the largest horror fan. He likes quite a bit. I've showed him quite a bit over the years. He runs this website. I just outed him. But in any case, he's a fan of anything, it's Tom Atkins, and he's been a fan for the longest time. So when he heard that Tom Atkins was getting a figure, he actually made me laugh, because I sent him a message and I was like, "You better be getting one." He's like, "I already made my account," and I was so proud of him. I had such an older brother proud moment. It was really funny.
And then you find out that he bought all of them just because of his giant Tom Atkins man crush.
Absolutely. I would hope he would give me one, but it's likely he wouldn't. Just to torture. Now, I'm hoping this sparks something. I want Tom Atkins, abusive husband from Creepshow figure. I want Tom Atkins from Die Hard. I want Tom Atkins from
Season of the Witch.
Yes, my Bloody Valentine, Halloween 3. Just give me all the Tom Atkins figures, please.
Yeah, no, definitely a pretty cool release, without a doubt. And trust me, I mean that Tom Atkins figure, that makes a lot of people happy. So when is that coming out?
That's scheduled to ship in May. So you can pick it up right now on Scream Factory's website. Just search Night of the Creeps. Their Blu-rays, if you're not familiar with Scream Factory, their Blu-rays are pretty much off the chart. They are the modern day Anchor Bay. Basically, all the love and care, extra features, the commentaries, all the features they produce solely for the Blu-rays are pretty much the best you're going to get out there. Not many companies invest money in special features, but they still have a lot of love for the Blu-ray, DVD, physical media collector, and they make sure that the Blu-ray is worth your time, worth your money. But on top of that, you get a Tom Atkins figure. So how do you go wrong?
Yeah, definitely. So staying on the subject of toys, our main topic tonight, just sort of kind of like a bit of a roundup on the 2019 Toy Fair. Toy Fair has become like I don't know, just a massive talking point in the last couple of years, simply because these companies like NECA are putting out just amazing pieces that collectors and fans are just drooling over, and 2019 is no different. There's a lot of cool stuff that NECA is all about. I'm looking through a lot of it, and I don't really collect these type of figures anymore. I usually stick with typically the Marvel stuff.
You've also upgraded to like statues and things like that.
Yeah. I really don't get figures unless I see some of the nice like Sideshow and Hot Toys figures. I got a couple of those, but for the most part, I have upgraded to higher quality display piece statues. Just because I like the way they look a little bit better, and I've kind of gotten rid of a bulk of my horror stuff and moved more into the Marvel and comic stuff. And there's no particular reason why, but I think at the end of the day, it'll be kind of cool for me to be able to give some of this stuff to my son, because I'm sure I'll be able to get him into comics and all that stuff too, and he'll love having some of these things in his room at some point in his life.
It's a little easier to explain to the wife that he's webbing up somebody as opposed to brutally slaughtering a helpless teenage girl with his Michael Myers figure. So I mean, I get it.
But looking over, some of the really cool things that NECA is putting out. We don't have to go over all of them, but some of the ones. They're putting out a couple of Halloween figures, some Michael Myers figures, and some Season of the Witch figures, which I kind of like. They're pretty fucking cool, I gotta say.
I like that NECA's going back into the larger scale figures. They were always really, really well designed and a lot more detailed than the 7-inch figures. But the quarter scale figures that they're putting out are really popular. They're pricey, but they're definitely moving in that direction a little bit to give larger collectors something to display in a case. So the announcement of the Halloween 2018 quarter scale figure is pretty awesome. I think that's great. I don't collect those personally. I had one that decided to bungee jump without any sort of protection off of one of my shelves, and that was the last large-scale figure that I bought for a while. So, but this 2018 Halloween figure is looking really good. Which ones stand out to you? Like, I mean, obviously, you don't really collect too much, and you already said you dug the Halloween 3 figures, but what else do you like?
Well, yeah, that quarter scale figure is gorgeous, and I had like one of their original quarter scale figures with the Friday 13th Part 7 release from like the early to mid 2000s. That was a 40. When that was brand new, that was like a $40 figure. I ended up selling it at one point when I needed to make a little bit of room and I needed some money. I sold it for like $175. So it shot up in value quite a bit. Now these quarter scale figures, retail are $150. So they've come a long way in price.
Just imagine once they go out of print, you're going to be people are going to be spending good $500 for them at least. Especially if the market stays the way it is. That's why I kind of stick low. I mean, the price of figures has went up to about like $30 for like the 7-inch figures and things like that. I mean, at least the really high end ones. And I don't mind doing that once in a while, but I don't do it as much as I used to. You remember me at conventions where I'd walk in there like I'm just making it rain on all the toy tables. Thankfully, I did so because, like again, when I needed some money and this and that, it was the retail has always shot up in price, and it's good a little investment to do because if the fandom is just thriving. So, but the ones that I like the most, I gotta say, is John Carpenter's They Live figures. There's two companies putting them out. Nika has one set of them, and 112, which is Mezco Toys, is putting out a set of them, which are really, really awesome. I wonder if they're going to have like a grayscale variant of them, but again, like I said before about the Tom Atkins figures, like I would have never dreamed that I would own a figure of the like little alien things from They Live. Like who even thinks that? You wish for it as a kid after seeing some of these movies, but you never think somebody's going to actually go out and make them.
Yeah, I thought you would have picked the Sam figure.
That's number 2, or very, very close tie. I'm digging that quite a bit. I already have a very cool, very rare Sam figure from Nika's earlier release of it. Probably the first release of it, so I gotta price it. I'm curious, but that Sam figure is fucking amazing. The detail that they put into it. A lot of those Mego-style figures are always... it always feels like their clothes don't fit right. You know what I mean? Like, they always have that style of just... they could have went and put a little more effort into sewing these little costumes for these figures, but Sam looks perfect.
So I think if I had to pick, at least from these Nika figures, I think the one, if I had to pick one, like I was gonna buy, and maybe I will. It's a really cool figure. Would probably be the Mothra that they're releasing.
That's really eye-catching. Like, I don't blame you at all for that. Like, I was scrolling down the list of them, and that thing is gorgeous. It'd probably look really, really good on a shelf.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know how big it is, but it looks like it's kind of massive with those wings. I mean, yeah, it's just a really cool piece. Definitely, like you said, very eye-catching. But, Nika's got they're releasing a ton of stuff. A few other Godzilla figures. The ones I wasn't really crazy about were the Toonie Terrors. I can't do that stuff. That's a little too goofy for my taste.
I like them because I've seen that style done before. They're very Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah. It looks like Scooby-Doo shit, and
yeah, exactly. Well, I've seen that before. There's actually a little bit of rumbling in the horror collector community because you might have seen a figure of a Scooby-Doo like Jason character, like a drawing rather of the one that basically it was a drawing of Jason as a Scooby-Doo character, and it's been on the internet since 2014. And the artist that drew it, although he doesn't own the intellectual property of Scooby-Doo or Friday the 13th or Jason or any of that, it's very, very similar what Nika brought to the table. So he's not, there's nothing he could do about it. He's just a little ticked off that his concept was kind of like riffed for this. And I can understand, like you're an artist, you put stuff out there to get your name out there, and then to see a company come along who could afford the license of both of those sort of things and go and do it without anything, or contact or anything. It's kind of a little shitty, but that's the world. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, that's why if you put shit on the internet, if you put your own original shit on the internet, just if it gets stolen, don't get mad.
Yeah, I think a good way to make good on this is maybe Nika should just hire this dude to do the cards, do the artwork for the backing artwork for the cards that they come on. I think that's the least that they could do. But, it is what it is. What are you going to do?
So Nika wasn't the only one who, came, announced some cool stuff. Mezco, who... I'm not as big a fan of. They do occasionally put out some pretty cool stuff. They announced some new stuff as well.
Their 112, their 112 line I absolutely adore, but it's very, very pricey.
Their 112 line. What is
They're
that?
they're basically, it's called 112 Collective, and they you see the They Live figures that have the cloths. They're very Mego style. They pretty much went and did figures like that. Have you seen the Warriors figures that were announced? That's 112. They're about action figure size, but super detailed, and as a result, it's quite a price for it. The best way to describe it is it's a smaller scale sideshow. Like they try to put the quality of like a sideshow figure.
Okay. I'll have to, just take a look into those. When I think of Mezco, I don't know. I don't know exactly what I think of. I didn't realize that. Oh, I guess maybe they're not part of Living Dead Dolls. I guess they just kind of joined up together for the Shining twin figures.
Yeah, possibly. And they also remember that line of toys, Real Toys, REEL.
Yeah,
they had quite a few figures out back in the day, and then they made some diorama figures that were just not very detailed. I think they got off to a little bit of a rocky start, but they're definitely correcting course a little bit.
Yeah. And then Mezco is looks like they're dropping some Addams Family figures from the animated series. That's definitely
they look awesome.
Yeah, they really do. I always liked that sort of awkward art style that show carried.
Agreed. I'm very, very likely to pick this up. This looks like it'd be great on the shelf, just to go into that sort of corner. This is something I grew up with. I love the original show, love the animated series, so like it only makes sense that I grab it.
Obviously Funko had to release 6,000 more Stupid Pop figures.
And we don't want to make this a 3-hour podcast, so we're going to just say, go look up your favorite character and likely Funko announcement.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's 6 other variant versions of it, and just fucking...
Pretty much. I gotta say, though, McFarlane has, like, the most disappointing display at Toy Fair. They literally had papers and cardboard...
Yeah, I see that.
Printed cardboard action figures, like I don't know.
They had pictures. That's all they were. Just big posters with pictures on them. That's all McFarlane Toys brought to the table this year. So yeah, good job, guys.
Yeah, congratulations on that Mortal Kombat figure. But I'll wait till I see the figure. I gotta say though, I'm gonna jump forward and give some fucking props to a toy company that I've never heard of up until this year, and that's Super 7. And they I know you're not really into, trauma and all that shit, but Toxic Crusaders action figure, like, done in 2019. I'm absolutely drooling over it. I grew up with that show. It was ridiculous and stupid, and the comics were great, but them taking that figure from those days and making a really, really impressive looking figure in 2019 is amazing. So I'm really hoping that they don't I hope they're not like one of those limited toy companies where, once it's out, you have to spend $200 fucking dollars after it sells out immediately. But that's definitely one that I'm grabbing from them.
Yeah, no, Super 7 puts out all those like older 3.5-inch, retro style figures. And those real minimalist packages and stuff.
Okay, so I probably own a few of them, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah, that's like their big thing, and it looks like they're coming out with some versions of that for Teen Wolf figures and RoboCop figures and stuff. So, people like that stuff. I mean, if you're just one of those collectors who collects everything, those are great little pieces because they're usually not overly expensive. They don't take up a lot of space. So, you could have 100, 200 of those, and you're not taking up that much room. It's not like a Funko box, which aren't that big, but I mean, those boxes start taking up some room after you get enough of them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've seen people's collections where they have like these wall shelves that are made specifically for the Funko boxes, and it's just like, okay, you just may as well wallpaper with your entire wall with like those stackings. But I completely agree on these like 3-inch figures. They're almost like G.I. Joe style, very old school. But the one thing I like about the reaction style figures is the fact that you're not going to see a NECA Teen Wolf figure. You might see the RoboCop figure, but like Reaction also put out Twilight Zone figures, Lost Boy figures, more recently Creep Show. You're not going to see those characters in like a 7-inch scale because they pick and choose of what they want to release. These smaller figures are much easier for those more obscure, rare characters to kind of like have their day on the store shelves. Like I fully expected a Tom Atkins Reaction figure before a NECA version. You know what I'm saying?
NECA just, finally got their shit together and their priorities straight.
Exactly.
Or Tom Atkins showed up at the headquarters and was like, all right, I've waited long enough.
Where does trench coat smoking Marlboro Reds and drinking a beer? I could have just said no to that.
And last is S&T Toys, who I am really not familiar with at all.
Yeah, no, I've heard the name, haven't seen what they've done up until recently, and they were a little impressive, I guess.
Yeah, they're coming out with 2 Jaws dioramas. One based off the iconic Jaws poster. That just looks awesome. I
never looked at it. I never looked at it like up close until now. At first, I thought they basically just ripped off what McFarlane did years ago with those 3D movie posters.
Yeah,
I have the
yeah.
Jaws one hanging on my wall right now.
I know you do.
But I'm looking at it now, and this thing looks like almost like a fish tank.
That's exactly what it is.
I kind of want to like just take the shark out of it and get a real fish tank. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's impressive.
Yeah, no, it's really freaking cool. And then another diorama that's depicting the final battle scene from Jaws between Brody and the shark. Very cool, very different pieces. And that I do not think they're going to have any issue selling those. I think fans are going to nom those puppies up. They look pretty goddamn cool.
Yeah, I like the set that they did right there because it's always very tempting to go do the like Quint being eaten scene, and it's already been done years ago by McFarlane. And if I could find one of those below $400, I would pull the trigger on it immediately. But that's here nor there. But I really like this like final battle with depicting the spear being the spear attack and him trying to balance up on that the pole of the boat while the boat sinks. I mean, it's just a fantastic piece. Like it looks pretty large too. Like you can set that right in a display case or on the centerpiece of your coffee table if you're a collector or you have a wife that doesn't care. It's a beaut.
Yeah, definitely. Probably some of my favorite pieces I've seen from the Toy Fair. Again,
that's just that horror, man.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. I mean, we were really not even touching on anything else. Anything anime or anything really cartoony or anything like that. We're focusing more in on the horror stuff, and there are plenty of others that we're not touching on. So you guys like anime and cartoons and all that other stuff, go check out a larger recap of what Toy Fair what got announced at Toy Fair. You might find something you guys really dig.
Absolutely. Check in the chat right now if you're listening to this on a replay. I just posted a link to our Toy Fair wrap-up but we focus on mostly horror. That's what we were going off of for the conversation. But I'm also going to post a link to a site by the name of Toy Arc, who really, really killed it and covering pretty much everything that Toy Fair had to offer. And it lists everything. You can pretty much see everything and anything that they had this year at 2019's Toy Fair. And if you like wrestling, you like fucking action figures of pretty much anything, it was there. So check that link out too.
Indeed. All right, let's cover a couple of quick comic and geek pieces. Well, no surprise here. Netflix has axed both the Punisher series and Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones is a little bit more surprising that they axed now, considering that season 3 is still coming out. But both of them getting the axe is not surprising. Most fans were expecting it at this point. It was just a matter of when, and it's now. So, yeah, it's not surprising. It's obviously it's still upsetting to fans, but nobody's shocked by this news. We knew it was coming.
We had quite a few months to kind of prepare for this, and I mean, essentially, we saw the writing on the walls. The thing I didn't like was that after multiple shows got canceled, you knew pretty much what was going to happen, and Netflix kind of just, I don't know, they played it close to the chest. They didn't really reveal anything, and like at least with the cancellation of Jessica Jones, that was the first honest cancellation, in my opinion. You know what I mean? They're just the season's coming out. They know that they're not going to continue with any of these series, so they at least said it. Without having some weird false hope that if this show that we watch or this season that we watch does well, maybe they'll keep it around. They knew that once the Marvel deal kind of went south and they would have to be competing with Disney and licensing the show and everything, that they weren't going to be continuing with it. It just sucks because they established quite a little universe like they did in the movies, and now we have to, at the very least, wait 2 years for that universe to continue, if it does. So,
yeah,
kind of a bummer.
Yeah, and that's simply because Netflix holds the rights to these characters in this form for 2 years. Unless Marvel works out some kind of behind-the-scenes deal with them and gets Netflix to release the rights. I don't see that happening. It's possible. It definitely is possible. It's just not likely at this point. And, there's all kinds of rumors and reasons going around why, Netflix canceled these shows. Some are saying that it has to do that Netflix wanted these shows shortened. They didn't want 13 episodes per season. They wanted 9 or 10 episodes. And, Marvel and the writers and the showrunners didn't feel that they could tell their stories in 10 episodes. There were a couple other reasons. Do you remember what some of them were?
Yeah. I guess the big one was the initial branching off of the contract that Marvel shared with Netflix during these shows. Basically, I don't know if they shared financial responsibility or if they were just partners on everything, so the licensing fees weren't that bad. But recently, the Hollywood Reporter, or I think it was Hollywood Reporter, reported that a big thing had to do with that breaking of that relationship. When Netflix and Marvel went their separate ways to, continue on their streaming service paths, they kind of went back to just business as usual. Oh, you want these characters, you have to continue to license them. And with them out of the picture as far as partners go, that licensing fee with the growing popularity of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and TV universe is probably not cheap. It's probably not something that you really want to pull the trigger on, especially when Disney is developing the streaming service with competitive television of their own. So, if Disney kind of hits the shows out of the park, people might say, well, the Netflix shows are a little bit boring, or maybe they're a little too long or too short, or I don't like this character or that character. Why do I have to pay for Netflix when I could go and get it on Disney Plus? And from the stuff that I've read, in the reports, it seems like that kind of left a bad taste in Netflix's mouth, and they chose not to continue with it because essentially they would be advertising the Marvel brand for their competitor, who's going to be releasing Marvel brand television. So, and on top of everything, they're going to have to pay to advertise for the Marvel brand. So I could see it from a business standpoint, but from a television and a story standpoint, you're just kind of like, man, like fuck all the corporate suits. We want our damn universe to continue. So it's kind of a drag, but those are the main ones that I've read as far as why it got axed. Who knows if that's really the case? It might have just been not very popular of a show, which we've been hearing otherwise. So who knows at this point?
Yeah, well, as I said, we all were expecting this. So right now, all we can hope for is that, Netflix maybe won't be too much of a twat and works out some type of deal with Marvel to release the rights to these characters so that these actors and showrunners and all these people can continue expanding upon this universe that was created over at Netflix somewhere else. I mean, I don't want to see any of these characters recasted. I love them all. Absolutely love them all. I can't possibly picture other people in these roles right now. And I don't want to see it end just yet. So just got to hope for the best.
Yeah, and apparently Marvel doesn't want to either because the head of the Marvel television division, Jeff Loeb, went on to say in a letter basically thanking the support for those shows was, let's sum it up. It basically said, as Matt Murdock's dad once said, the measure of a man is not how he gets knocked to the mat, it's how he gets back up. To be continued. And right before it, he went on to say, our network partner may have decided to no longer want to continue telling these tales of these great characters, but Marvel better than that. So I think there's a lot of hope going forward. It didn't just seem like a television president going on to try to pacify people. It legitimately seems like they were proud of what they put forward and they hope to do so, in the future. And if shows like Fargo and True Detective and, I could name a few others, but if they take multiple years off between series, why can't Netflix Marvel characters do that? So I fully think that this isn't the end for them.
I certainly hope not. But, where one door might partially close, 4 new doors open in 4 doors we didn't even know existed. Those doors were hiding somewhere. Somebody molded those doors into the wall. And now they've sprung open. And from those doors have emerged characters such as Howard the Duck, Tigra and Dazzler, Hit Monkey, and MODOK. And of course, I am referring to these 4 animated series that Marvel and Hulu have announced, plus a special team-up series, much like the Defenders, called the Offenders. This one is, it's quite out there.
This is like Marvel taking a chance, like Guardians of the Galaxy level chance. And you know what? At this point, they could take this ragtag team and say, hey, we're going to greenlight 5 Marvel shows, Marvel animated series, themed towards adults. And fuck it. If it works, it works. They don't even need to have any sort of caution. It's all to the wind at this point.
Yeah, Howard the Duck, I could see, people digging, ever since his cameo in Guardians of the Galaxy, fans kind of got excited for the character again, so that was pretty cool. Tigra and Dazzler, that's sort of an interesting one. Dazzler, not
definitely different.
Yeah, not the most popular characters, she's just sort of like another Jubilee, and we know how most people feel about Jubilee. Hit Monkey.
we just figured out who Hitmonkey was right before the show. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I never even heard of Hitmonkey before today, and the way you described him to me has me kind of sold, and I haven't even seen a picture. I'm going to Google it while you give me your thoughts.
Yeah, so I was not familiar with Hitmonkey, and seeing that it's actually a pretty brand new character, only being created in 2010, doesn't make me feel too bad. And basically who Hitmonkey is a monkey who watched this assassin sort of train and practice because he was near death, and this monkey's clan of monkeys took in this assassin and helped, heal him, I guess. And so then this monkey watched him and learned all of his assassin skills and marksman skills. So
it's kind of like a Master Splinter backstory.
Sort of.
A little bit.
At the end of the day, this monkey, he decided that he's going to, something, traumatic happened, of course, and this monkey, who now has all these assassin-like skills, has decided that he will become a assassin of assassins. So he goes under the name of Hitmonkey, and that's what he does. He kills assassins. I looked it up. He's had feuds with Deadpool and Bullseye. Yeah. And basically this monkey looks like Jules Verne or Vincent Vega. He's in a suit, and he's got his black glasses, and he's got his handguns in his hand and his feet. So yeah, it's I don't even know. I don't even know where else to go with this Hitmonkey. So
I have no words. I want to buy a comic of this. Like, I'm looking at the character now. He's holding he has a toy, so there's that. But somebody pit him against the Sentinel, and I'm just like, I would read the shit out of that. Somebody made a custom Hitmonkey Lego. Where the hell has this been? Why are you people not notifying me of Hitmonkey?
Now, what's sort of cool about Hitmonkey, and I'll get into it in a second, is the fourth series that they're doing is a MODOK series. Now, MODOK is typically a villain, part of AIM and everything, and there was a time in the comics, actually not too long ago, where he was still pseudo-villain, and he was heading up his own team of mercenaries. I forget who was on that team. I know Batroc the Leaper was on it, and I forget who else. There was one or two other members. And another member of that team for a very short period of time actually happened to be Gwenpool. And Gwenpool and Hitmonkey have actually had interaction at some point to where Gwenpool is translating what Hitmonkey is saying, because Hitmonkey is a monkey. He doesn't speak English, he speaks monkey. So
that's fair.
So knowing that there are two characters in this show that have had direct contact with Gwenpool, plus I think Gwenpool is actually Howard the Duck too. She's had an arc with Howard, so that make that three characters. And I'm seeing, there's a possibility that, Gwenpool might get thrown into these shows.
Yeah, especially with the relationship between Marvel and Sony, And I don't necessarily... Sony doesn't own Gwenpool. Who owns Gwenpool? That's a weird question, because, Deadpool is owned by Fox, which is going to be in Disney soon, and Gwen Stacy is owned by Sony.
Well, no. Gwenpool is not Gwen Stacy.
Wait, I thought she was.
No.
I never read Gwenpool or what is it, Spider-Gwen or any of that, so I might be completely wrong. Is it a different universe situation?
Well, Gwenpool is a very unique character, and Gwenpool is a character who actually comes from our world. She comes from this world, and somehow got sucked into the Marvel 616 universe, and her real name is actually Gwendolyn Poole.
All right, I was completely wrong half this time. I never really got into that sort of story arc, and I was just like, oh, okay, that's cool. I'm not interested in Gwen Stacy, so let's move along. But very interesting. She
was sort of like played off, originating as sort of like this amalgam of Gwen Stacy in the very, very beginning, but it's not Gwen Stacy. It's actually Gwendolyn Poole, a real-life character, so to say, who really doesn't have any powers. She just has a pretty cool suit that she had made at a store that makes superhero suits. It's actually a pretty funny story when you read it in the comics.
This sounds pretty great. I might look into it. I mean, it's very similar to how they played Kamala Khan, and obviously she didn't get sucked into the universe or anything, but she's just a regular girl growing up in New Jersey who like admires, all the New York superheroes and this and stuff, this and that, and then eventually becomes one herself. So it's similar in that regard, but I think I like the relatable aspect of it. So I might have to grab that.
But as far as who owns Gwenpool, it would honestly have to be Marvel and Disney, since the character's inception was 2015.
No, that sounds about right. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, no, you could just as easily see that character stroll on in.
Yep.
That's awesome.
What's one of the funnier and kind of like interesting aspects about Gwenpool is the fact that she came from the real world and she read comics, so she knows all these things about all these comic characters that like other regular people wouldn't know, and she's like saying all these things to some of these characters, and it's just like, well, how would you possibly know that? And it's because she read them in the comics in the real world. So it's a really cool dynamic that she has as a character.
Nice little wink at Deadpool's breaking the fourth wall. It's like breaking the fourth wall in her own kind of way, written into the story. It's really cool. I like.
Yeah, so I definitely would not be surprised to see her pop into some of these shows. So yeah,
I will say this real quick, or I gotta ask this. There's Patton Oswalt's linked to the MODOK show. You think he's gonna voice him? I think he has in the past.
I don't know. I love Patton Oswalt, but I don't see his voice being the right one. I could see someone like, I don't know. I like MODOK's always had a really weird voice, but then again, I'm thinking of like the MODOK from like the 90s animated Iron Man series. So,
which you're probably the only person to think of that, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Interesting to see. What's Kevin Smith's role in Howard the Duck?
He is going to be writing it with a guy by the name of Dave Willis.
Yeah.
So expect that to be very, very raunchy. And, a lot of people were kind of like, oh, well, when they decide to make a Howard the Duck something, whether it's animated or movie, at least they could clean up what mess that was made by the movie in the 80s. And then you hear that Kevin Smith was announced to write Howard the Duck animated show, and I'm just like, oh, so much for that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess I don't have Hulu, but I guess maybe if these shows look pretty good, I'll consider grabbing Hulu. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. I'm looking forward to it.
So last up, Captain Marvel right around the corner. We're getting our first reactions. And, of course, with all the controversy going on with, the things that Brie Larson has been saying, obviously there were going to be some extremely offended, just pathetic. Yeah, trolls who were going to start a smear campaign against her and the movie. And it's happened, and there's fake reviews from these people rolling in, who've obviously not seen the movie, and they're trying to, wreck it. This happened to Black Panther. This happens to most Marvel movies. Happens to most DC movies.
Star Wars.
Yeah, man, it's just the way it goes. But it doesn't seem to be working. First reactions have been stellar. Most people are in agreement that the movie feels really different from past Marvel movies. They're saying all the characters are really shining in this, and everyone seems to really love Goose the cat. And
I just love that so much.
It's so far it's tracking very well. It was at 100 million after about a week ago, and in the last couple of days it shot up to 120 million for a box office opening take. So it's going really, really well. It looks like this movie is going to be yet another hit. We won't get official reviews for probably another, week and a half, 2 weeks?
Something like that. It's probably going to be... I don't know when they usually lift their embargoes, to be perfectly honest, but, I think that's a safe...
It's usually Marvel usually lists them a couple days before, because they've always been, they've been pretty confident nowadays that that they're making good movies, and it's not going, they're not going to be reviewed poorly.
Yeah, and it's always like this. Whenever a new movie like Black Panther or Guardians of the Galaxy, there's always this like little bit of caution in amongst the fan base, but what this is snowballed into is pretty laughable. Like, I'm well aware that Marvel and Kevin Feige and all that kind of brace for, a new hero being introduced. They know the potential of it not doing as great, but this is one that the cinematic universe fans for the longest time has been kind of just gunning for. They wanted a female superhero. They said that the DC shouldn't have beat him to it, and all this, and then all of a sudden things are changing amongst angry neckbeards that are roaming the internet. But I'm not putting the focus on those people. I'm putting the focus on the numbers, the projections, the excitement, the reactions. Everything is in the green at this point, and if you're in a comment section or anything and you see a whole lot of trolling going around, I'm not trying to shill for Marvel, because that's the first thing that people are going to say that I'm trying to do. But
shill.
Have they let us down yet? The proof is in the giant bowl of Marvel pudding, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still very excited for the movie. I've loved this character for so long, and everything that she's saying, whatever. A lot of it I'm agreeing with. Some of it comes off a little. I'm not getting into it, but for the most part, I'm very excited for this movie. I will be there. Thursday night opening, and I'm just looking forward to it so much.
I'll say about what she's saying. I'm not getting into details of what she's saying, but since the first little bit of controversy of something that came out of her mouth happened, interviewers are seeing interviews like, oh, well, we could say this, we could ask her this, to try to trigger that sort of response and make a ridiculously idiotic headline. The first time when we spoke about this last 2 weeks ago on the podcast, the headline is the only thing people were responding to, and the headline was misleading. So I feel like the interviews leading up to Captain Marvel are starting to get predatory, in the sense that, now they're gunning for some sort of clickbait quote that they could put out there and get people to respond to it, whether it's share or retweet or just comment on it and engage on it. And that's what journalism nowadays is all about, just the fucking clicks. And I don't know, I think it's extremely irresponsible on their part, and I'm hoping the press tour that's leading right up to the film itself, I'm hoping those press are a little bit more cautious, or Do your job right. We're talking about a movie. We're not talking about this other stuff. Stop trying to prod clickbait titles out of her. You know what I'm saying? Let her go and change the world however she wants to. But like, keep the focus on where it belongs. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree completely, man. And as the movie draws nearer, I'm actually getting like, I'm obviously getting very, very excited, and I'm seeing a lot of cool Captain Marvel figures being created. Obviously, especially from Sideshow. They have a couple on pre-order right now, and I'm probably gonna end up getting at least one, if not two. I mean, obviously they're one from the movie is a 6th scale figure. It's absolutely, it's freaking Hot Toys, So
except no substitutes.
So it is not a cheap piece by any mean, but it is an absolute gorgeous piece. It comes, obviously with a couple different hands, couple different heads. It, we're talking $250, but it's definitely really cool. And I don't have any Captain Marvel swag in my collection, so this would definitely be one of them. They also have a smaller scale Koto Japanese figure that Sideshow is putting out, more
Nice.
based on the actual like comic version of the character. And I love the Koto figures. I obviously have the Squirrel Girl one that I love. So, and this one is like very bright and vibrant. It's a smaller piece, but it looks amazing. And yeah, that might be something. Something I might end up getting, because it looks like it might also have a companion piece with another Koto figure that they're doing of Thanos that I've been looking at too. And
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, no, it's really, really cool. And I could get both of those and still be cheaper than the Hot Toys one. So
Yeah, sometimes that's a better option. I've been really tempted myself to get the Squirrel Girl, and they have a Kamala Khan Miss Marvel figure that I really want. I didn't know they released a Captain Marvel one or a Thanos, so I might have to look into that. But as far as the collectibles, I've been seeing them on the shelf, and I've already went and bought Captain Marvel's Lego ship. I'm a big fan of Lego. I love minifigures. I've designed minifigures that I've had made for me. So I'm a real big geek as far as that goes. So it was really cool to add Captain Marvel set to my Marvel collection. So that's been fun.
yeah, and I'm looking at this one other one, this Ant-Man figure, smaller scale figure, but it's him actually going from small to big. It's a beautiful Sideshow piece, like really. It's a 1/10 scale, and it's just so freaking cool. So I'm looking at spending on some money that I probably shouldn't be spending, but on some really choice pieces here. So we'll see.
That's kind of the theme of this episode in general. Like, just all the collectibles that are either out right this second, or at least going to be hitting the shelves in 2019. I guess for me at least, my wallet's going to be hurting, and my wallet's always hurting in general. So now add in some of these really awesome collectibles that have been put out or are going to be coming out, and I'm pretty much screwed.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, guys, that is going to go ahead, wrap it up for us this week. I want to thank everybody who hung out with us tonight. Much appreciated. If you're watching this at a later date, thank you for watching and or just listening. Since it's just mostly listening to us. It's not a whole lot. It's not a very video type of show, but you know what I mean. Thank you guys so much. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit that little bell. Hit that thumbs up. Just hit all the buttons. I'm going to say that every week. Just hit all the buttons on our page. It's fun. You won't regret it. Don't forget, this Friday, live commentary, 1990 Night of the Living Dead. That's what we're watching. If you guys want to watch with us, contact me on Twitter. My Twitter is right here, right there. You see it? Go ahead, contact me on Twitter at Bates_MotelMT, and I'll give you all the details on how you can watch the movie with us. Make sure you follow me. Follow Mungus at Ray Mungus. Follow Dead Entertainment at Dead Insight, and make sure you like us over on Facebook, facebook.com/Dead Entertainment. You got anything?
Do I ever?
I don't know. Sometimes.
Not this week. I'm too tired for it this week.
All right. Well, he's got nothing. And I'm kind of tired.
You got anything?
No, not really. I kind of thought I did.
I always feel like something's escaping me, and usually it's not. So.
Monday, I might be doing a live unboxing. I'm supposed to be getting my new Thanos sideshow figure. That's supposed to be coming in on Monday. I've been waiting for that for like 6-7 months now.
God, I might join you and be in Discord just so I can have a live commentary of your unboxing.
Yeah, so
that thing is going to be beautiful.
Yeah, no, that's it's really, really cool. It's a fun piece. I've been looking forward to getting it for so long, and it's supposed to be coming Monday. So I get it Monday. I'm probably gonna do a live unboxing of it because I don't know, people seem to like those. And yeah, so keep an eye out for that, and make sure you check out my gaming channel. I stream a couple times a week. Lately, I've been doing Resident Evil 2 and obviously, Ghost Recon Wildlands and whatever else I feel like playing. I actually finished almost everything in Resident Evil 2. Both A scenarios, both B scenarios. I did all of the DLC. I did Hunk. The only thing I haven't beaten yet is Tofu. Really have to watch some optimized runs on how to run the Tofu for Survivor mode, because it is not easy. So that's about it. I might start doing casual speed runs of the game. But we'll see. I've been having a lot of fun with it, and replaying it is a lot of fun. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, guys, thank you so much. Hopefully we will see everybody Friday night for our live commentary. Thank you guys again. And remember,
What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.